and Barbecue. Welcome, everyone, to another Boost, Booze, and Barbecue. This is Andy.
And this is JoJo.
JoJo, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Andy, how are you?
Doing real well. Been one heck of a crazy week. And
you're telling me.
Really excited to finally be sitting down and having a drink.
Me too.
And we are drinking with some of the best people to be drinking with. We've got Caitlin and Chris here from Vivacity Spirits. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing
Thanks.
great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Vivacity Fine Spirits.
Yes.
That's important when you're trying to find them on social media because it's going to be Vivacity_fine_spirits.
Mm-hmm.
That's for Instagram.
That's for Instagram. Your Facebook is probably going to be facebook.com/
Veracity Spirits. We actually started out as Veracity Spirits, and we ran into a bit of a trademark issue. There was a winery down in California, and they were actually pretty nice about it. They could have said cease and desist and destroy everything, and they just said work through whatever product you have. We're about a year into it, right? So we weren't that far into it.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. Like if we discovered it now, it would be awful.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just said work through it and change your label when it comes through. So they're actually pretty cool about it, but it's still kind of a bummer that we had to change our name. But we like Vivacity. We just turned the ER to an IV, and Vivacity means to be in high spirits, so it fits.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Works. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. It fits perfectly with what you make here because these are some very fine spirits. They're
Thank
very
you.
high
Yeah.
shelf.
Thank you.
I believe I told you earlier, my wife is super excited about us doing this show with you because her absolute favorite vodka is the Vivacity vodka.
Oh, our
She
first
just
product.
can't get enough of it.
Thank you.
That was your very first product.
Yeah, we came out with the vodka first.
in December of 11.
Yeah, 2011. And the two rules had to be sipping smooth, couldn't smell like rubbing alcohol.
That's
Those
it.
seem like really important rules.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, a lot of vodkas don't quite fit that criteria.
I think I've had some of those vodkas, unfortunately for me.
I think I've had a few of those vodkas come back up, unfortunately for me.
Yes. And the idea with our spirits, all our spirits are designed to be sipping smooth. And that way you can sip a martini neat or dry, I guess would be the correct term. And very dry, you just whisper vermouth. But if you do decide you want to mix it, if you can sip it, you don't have to bury it with a mixer. There's nothing to hide. So it's just a nice, well-crafted, well-balanced cocktail.
So you can do like a splash of orange juice instead of, a gallon of orange juice.
Yeah, and I've actually discovered that making gin and tonics with the Banker's gin, it's like a splash of tonic water because you don't want to dilute the flavor of the gin. It's so good just on its own.
That's absolutely true because the Banker's Gin might be my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
I think you guys are a little more preferential towards the native, right?
I wouldn't say one is my favorite or not, but it's the native sells a lot more than the Bankers for sure.
Yeah, it's a little more, it's designed around the native organ ingredients, so it's more like home to the people. It's like,
sure.
I always laugh, it's like drinking the essence of the high desert.
Yeah.
And it is a gin and tonic. It's really dangerous.
We've
Oh,
had
yeah.
people come up and say like, "Oh, I feel like I'm walking through the forest" or something. I used to think that was so corny, but a lot of people say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kinda
I
funny.
guess it's a good thing.
Yeah. And it's just whatever my mood is, I'm going to go with the Bankers for that citrus finish, or I'm going to go with the native. And I'll have probably more than one.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I definitely have more than one.
Jojo, I remember one time you were told by a winemaker that their wine had a forest floor flavor,
Yes.
but in a good way.
But in a good way.
Right.
And he was right. Yeah, it was a Oregon Pinot Noir. It was some kind of vintner's reserve that this particular vineyard had produced, and I was really enjoying it. And I was like, I couldn't place the undertone or whatever. And he's like, forest floor, and I went, oh, you're right, but it's good.
Isn't that funny? You think that'd be a bad thing? Like, somebody say like leather or horse sweat.
Right.
You're like, yeah,
Horse
but
blanket.
ew, it actually tastes good. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah, we had a wine like that one time. It was amazing.
We have a love-hate relationship with Asian pear. Whenever
Asian
people
pear.
use Asian pear to describe something, because
Really?
invariably we'll
Yeah.
get something that has Asian pear in it, and it doesn't taste like Asian pear.
Yeah, oddly enough, Asian pear actually tastes like apple.
Oh,
Okay.
So
Is that code word
I
for
guess
apple?
I guess it's just a fancy way to say apple.
so this is advice not to put Asian pear on anything. Right? Is that what I'm hearing?
If you're going to put Asian pear on it, make sure it tastes like Asian pear.
Right.
Or call it apple.
Or call it apple.
Well, I want to hear a little bit more about not just the vodka, but how you got started. I'm really interested to hear that because I'm sorry, you said a date. How long have you guys been in operation now?
Well, the vodka came out in December of 11, but it took us a year and a half, almost 2 years before that. Just the paperwork, the legal, the financing, the licensing, everything else. It's quite a process.
The TTP and everything.
Oh, yeah, lots of paper. And we were one of the last distilleries to file our paperwork as paperwork. Now it's done online.
Oh,
I mean, it's like a literal ream of paper you have to submit.
And
Right.
if you didn't cross one T, you get the whole thing back with little arrows saying, cross that T, and then you send it all back. And the frustrating part is then you hear nothing. So you send it off and you hope you hear something. And
For 3 months.
yeah, for literally. And all of a sudden you get a phone call. We need to clarify this. Thank you. If they even said thank you, but, but then nothing. And then you get it all back and make these corrections. And you send it off and nothing.
My gosh.
It was interesting, a little nerve-wracking.
so were you guys already distilling just kind of for yourselves at that point?
That wouldn't be legal, would it?
Well, I mean,
No, actually, I'm the paranoid type in that
Okay.
response. I refuse to, because last thing we needed was, the big bad government, they know we're doing this.
No, but we were doing recipe development at that time, and we did
Okay.
a couple of classes. We did a week-long class down in California, and we did a 3-day class out in Michigan, and we were doing a lot of research, which means buying bottles and drinking everywhere and
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
tasting everything you can.
Yeah,
and
that's my kind of research.
Exactly, right? You should see our liquor cabinet at home. But yeah, we were doing a lot of research and taking classes and stuff.
Great.
Well, that's good. That's probably the best use of your time while you're waiting. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you interested.
Well, and it is truly research because you get to see what's out there. And especially with the vodka, that was surprising because most people think, oh, vodka's vodka.
Right.
No, there's a big difference. You have the different products that it's made from. Most people think, oh, vodka's made from potatoes. No, that's not correct. Vodka can be made from anything that you can distill to at least 95%, not proof percent alcohol.
Wow.
And then bring down or proof down, meaning adding water, having filtered through a media. And then not less than 40% or 80 proof.
Okay.
It really is fun to taste the vodkas next to each other because it's like the legal definition of vodka is to be flavorless, colorless, odorless. But they all have their own very sort of unique flavors,
They
right?
do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, there really only would be one vodka on the
Right.
shelf. But
And the different grains, it's grapes. There's a rice vodka out there.
so we use organic
Yeah.
corn for ours, and we intentionally left a little, not even a flavor, but just barely a hint of the corn in there. So a lot of bourbon drinkers like our vodka.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah, that makes sense.
kind of really felt like it needed to have a mouthfeel or something.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said, you didn't want it to just be antiseptic tasting because
Yeah.
Right.
your brain needs to process something.
it
that
will
tastes so-
it will wrap around something. What people don't realize is that alcohol actually has a flavor. It is actually a little sweet. So to make something that doesn't even have that, it's kind of difficult and boring.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm at the point now in my life where if I'm tasting things, I'll take just a small, like a quarter shot of vodka and just, get it back and get it in my mouth and get it on the back of my palate and see what I can come up with because I find it very interesting. You can tell when something is a mass-produced, cheap product and it just does not have that flavor. I used to watch the videos of the vodka tasting experts.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's a video. I'll have to find it. We'll maybe have it up on the Facebook page at some point during the week. But it was an experiment where it was Mythbusters. Mythbusters. They sent a cheap vodka through a Brita filter 5 times
Okay.
to try to make it a better vodka, and the whole time saying, "There's no way this vodka expert can tell us one from the other. There's just no way. Like they're all the same." And now that we've been doing this for a while and I've really started focusing in when I taste these vodkas, absolutely not. They're not all the same. Absolutely not.
Well, the difference I find sometimes, it's not even, the smoothness, how they processed it after they distilled it, but also the different, I can tell, not that I could tell you which one is wheat, which one is potato, which one is corn.
Right.
But I can tell you that they're different.
Yeah.
There is
It's just
something
like wine
different.
tasting. You're training your taste buds to pick up the different things. I
Exactly.
mean, somebody who's never tasted wine before could barely even tell a white from a red, really. I mean, or a cab from a Pinot. But,
Right.
you train your taste buds and you
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And that's really kind of been an interesting side effect of what we're doing is I feel like I've been learning more and more. The barbecue side, we started doing the show and I started barbecuing a lot more. And I'm kind of on this quest to make the best ribs I possibly can. And so and I apologize to the listeners and the viewers, but I know that a lot of my Fired Up Fridays were ribs just over and over and over. And it's because I was trying to just make those subtle tweaks. I had everybody going, yeah, your ribs are really good. But only recently did I start having people go, these ribs might be the best ribs I've ever had.
Yeah. And
that's what's important to me. I want to hone in on that. And
Absolutely.
Right.
It's when good is just, it's good enough. No. It's the difference from, this is good to, oh, yeah, this is really good. 3, 4, 5 ribs later. They go, what, we're out? Oh, man.
We had a thing called the Triple Birthday Bash. It was my birthday, JoJo's birthday, and then another friend of ours' birthday. And I did 4 racks of ribs. And at some point, it was all gone. And there were some people who complained that they didn't get any. And I kind of, in my drunken stupor, I think I said, well, who ate the most ribs here? People started going, I had 3 or I had 5. And then I had 12.
Wow.
12.
So I guess you hit the right spot there.
That's kind of how I equate what you guys do. You've just got such a fine product. It really, when I taste it, it tastes like something that someone sat down and said, this is good, but it could be a lot better.
Well, definitely a lot of experimentation. Couple of them we got when you're good, meaning Caitlin, at what you do, she nailed, at least the Banker's Gin, she nailed that.
Well, the vodka was Chris's. Chris designed the vodka.
Okay.
We used 3 different filter medium to filter it to make sure it's sipping smooth. And we'll send it through at least 10 times and we'll taste it and see if it's ready and then pass it through 1, 2, or 3, all 3 again.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
But it was literally through a hand filter.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's okay, 1, sip it, okay, make a note, 2, 3, 4, and keep going, and we hit that.
Process
down. And then if too much.
We don't use the hand filter anymore.
No.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, no, that'd be hard.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I was kind of curious how you work that out, the flavor profile. So the thing that you start with, the corn, that obviously affects the flavor. But then in making it, so the filter media and then also the number of times you filter it, that can really have a big impact on the flavor.
It really can.
Yeah, I think that's probably more important than the actual distillation. It's so sexy. We're distilling. We're boiling a liquid with alcohol. We're catching the alcohol.
We're watching a pot boil.
Yeah, right. Truly. And you know what? Yes, it will boil, especially with alcohol in it.
That's right.
But it's the recipe beforehand that goes in. If it's not quality going in, you're not going to get quality coming out. And then how you treat it after it comes out, that's everything. So like Caitlin said, with our vodka, we filter it 30 times. I always say at least, because after 30, I'll sip it and it's warm, but it's still sippable. And then whether it has the right profile that I want, then I'll start tweaking the filters to get just what I want.
What are some of the typical filter medias that you guys use?
Well, the main filter, the media that pretty much everyone uses is charcoal.
Activated charcoal.
Activated charcoal that really polishes up the spirit. We also use limestone and lava rock. And mainly the limestone, it's giving it a mineral sweetness. And to me, it's reminiscent more of the sweet water that you get like back in Kentucky, back east. You have the...
Limestone's more of an adsorbent. It's not an absorbent. You know what I mean? So it's giving, it's not necessarily taking.
Okay.
So it does a little bit of both, but it is adding something to it. It's not just pulling like the activated charcoal is. And then the lava rock is just sort of bouncing and aerating and agitating.
That is super interesting. I had no idea. Boy,
and then of course when we're doing the cuts, and distilling too, we make the really, you got the heads, the hearts, and the tails, and we make really big cuts. And so our hearts are pretty small in the vodka because that's, all the off flavors are on the ends.
Oh yeah,
And obviously those cuts are in different places for the rums or for the brandies because you want to keep different flavor profiles for different things. But so.
I'm sorry for that
Very
long
cool,
pause.
yeah.
You just kind of blew my mind. Like you were talking about limestone lava rock. I'm sitting here going, what?
I know. I was kind of picturing it in my head. Like, wow. like vodka tumbling over lava rocks in a stream
I
or
was
something.
doing
That's what was
exactly
going
the
in
same
my head. It was like,
You made it sound so romantic.
It was a very happy place.
Yeah, it was. It was great.
Are those typical? Like, do most distillers use those, or is that something that you've discovered in your process?
I know the charcoal is standard. I
The other
don't.
two, I don't know if anybody else
No.
uses it really.
No, I
I
know.
know it's not proprietary, but
Yeah, no, I know. I believe Ben Distillery does filter through lava rock.
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, with
Bend.
the-
Yeah,
There's
whereas
a lot of that around over
Yeah.
there.
really up in the Cascades. Imagine that.
Yeah, weird.
But no, as far as I know, I mean, it can be anything you want, really, depending on the flavor profile. Especially if you start now, they're starting to do aged vodkas, so in wood. So if you're doing that, then you can also put wood chips in, depending on the barrel. Of course, the flavors you're going to get into the vodka.
You know, I've read about this. I think people were calling it vodski, like a vodka whiskey.
Okay.
But we're calling it just an aged vodka then, like a barrel aged vodka.
yeah,
Yeah.
Huh.
I want to say it's gimmicky.
yeah. I don't really.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry.
No offense to anybody that does it, but yeah, I don't really quite buy into it.
We try and keep it simple, classic, just really the basics. For me, first of all, you should be able to sip what you're going to mix. And then you should always sip what you're going to mix anyways, just to make sure you know what the flavor is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's like
then
cooking, you need to know your ingredients.
exactly. And then you can mix your drink as it is. Now, you don't have, of course, it doesn't hurt to sip it every time, just
Right.
because it might change in the bottle from that one drink to the other, but you never know.
That's
Should we pull
true.
out some vodka to taste?
Sure. Yeah.
That's
Do you
a
mind?
fantastic idea.
You are correct.
All right. Well, Caitlin, you brought us over some of your vodka since we were talking about it. And the very first thing I did is I stuck my nose into it.
Absolutely.
Me too.
And right off the bat, of course, the alcohol is there. But when you get past that alcohol, there is a sweet, I almost want to say a fruity scent, but
Yeah.
light. There's
Right.
some citrus to it. And I love that.
I've had a lot of people ask if there's some citrus in there. No, and it's the limestone,
Yeah,
Interesting.
hence lime.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can really.
limestone doesn't
I don't know.
doesn't have anything to do with lime, the fruit, but
Just kidding.
Oops.
it's lime because it's well, anyway.
The world may never know.
She's the chemist.
Okay.
She's the scientist. I just make the stuff.
Really?
Was I going to say? Oh, one of the things when I go to taste this, when we're sampling it, is after I smell it, I'll kind of just breathe in, and I can get the first taste from that, and that gives me the first hint if it's if it needs any more tweaking or anything. Okay. And this is room temperature that we're sipping at, right? So picture it chilled. Like the physical temperature will have an effect on the mouthfeel.
Oh, yeah.
So like on really hot days when we're out tasting, we don't have ice with us, it still comes down smooth, even though it's pretty warm. So picture it chilled, how much smoother that would be. We have a lot of
Absolutely.
people come up and do the tasting, and you can see they sort of brace themselves for that burn.
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna-
that's
and then
hilarious.
they kind of go like, oh, there's
And
nothing
then
there.
there's nothing there. Yeah.
Yeah, they have their face all scrunched up, and then it's just like,
Yeah, it's sweet and it's citrusy and it's floral. And
Yeah.
it's nothing you'd expect to get from just straight vodka, especially not. Well, I mean, there's not really going to be a vodka that's less than 80 proof, but
shouldn't be.
any
be, right.
anything that is 80 proof should have that little bit of kick. But not this. It's very, very smooth. It goes down very easy. And so it's obvious that if you're making Moscow mules or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
this type of vodka, where it's already a little bit sweet, it has a characteristic of its own that's really going to lend to the drink, and it's just going to take it to that next level.
And I'm getting like a sweet, buttery kind of a thing going on. Am I way off base here?
No.
Or
Well, I mean, there's obviously no wrong answer here, but
Yeah.
Should I
think
make
it's
something
just,
else again?
No, I think it just has to do with the smoothness again. It's
Yeah.
that mouthfeel coming across.
Yeah, I
Mouthfeel
think
has a
that's what
lot
it
to
is.
do with the overall flavor, too.
And what a lot of people don't realize is what you ate, and when I say just ate, it could be even an hour ago, will affect what you're tasting now. And your mood can even affect it.
Yeah.
So it's, and Caitlin's right. There is no wrong answer. If you're getting something, a flavor off it, that's you.
As long as
Yeah.
it's not horse sweat.
Yeah,
it
there
is
you go.
Right.
not
exactly.
that. Not that.
And I like that depending on your mood, it can change flavor. I like that because I always thought mood rings were pointless, but a mood vodka, I'm all over that.
There you
Ooh,
go.
should we get one that changes? How would that work?
That or just wear the mood
don't
ring
know.
and go, oh, ready, time to drink. Now.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There you go. Well, you've got me a little curious now because, Chris, did you say Caitlin's a chemist?
She's, well,
I just
Caitlin.
have a bachelor's degree. I'm not high in chemistry by any means. I went to OSU for food science and nutrition science.
Oh, okay.
And my minor was food science. My focus on that was fermentation. So the focus of my minor sort of driven my career such that it is.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is chemistry. This is a solution. So you're a chemist. Boom.
I'm a chemist. I mean, in anything you distill, obviously you have to ferment first. And so that's my background. I did an internship at a brewery in Germany, and I worked at a couple wineries in California. And then I was a hops research chemist here at OSU for 5 years. And then we got into this.
Wow.
So it all sort of led there.
What took you to Germany?
I've always wanted to just be in Germany. And this was a great opportunity to spend 9 months there, learn the language, and actually live there instead of just, I had visited it once before. I was a tourist once before. And so this opportunity came up to work at this, to do this internship at this brewery. And
Wow. That's
Can't
awesome.
say no to that.
No.
No way. I would have done that in a heartbeat. That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty great.
What I feel, all her education aside, I think why Caitlin makes awesome spirits, designs awesome spirits, is she's an awesome cook.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
He's a fine husband, isn't he?
no, but it's all about, and she bartended her way through school, so
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah, about
about
20 years of bartending, too.
Oh, wow. So, yeah.
It's all about mixing, know how flavors mix.
Yeah.
And, if you can't make something bad just because you distill it, isn't going to turn it into something good.
Right.
That's true.
Having that amazing palate really does make things different. I'm really trying to work on my wife to get a booze-only show going with her because she has this incredible palate. I'm sure very
So she
similar
could
to you.
probably design some good drinks and...
Oh, yeah, I have
Yeah.
no doubt. She'll be sipping wines in a winery, and the winemaker will be sitting there listening to her describe these flavors, and they're going, "Oh yeah, I hadn't noticed that before, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're right."
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Somebody-
she's a
maybe like
dream
good
for a
poetry,
winemaker.
yeah.
It is. No, it is. I mean, when you get someone, we had a lady come in to our tasting room, and she said, "Well, I have a photographic palette." I'm like, okay, that's very interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah.
And so she tried our native gin, which has 17 ingredients, and she named about 15 of them.
No.
I was blown away.
Most people only pull out like one or two, maybe three.
Yeah, and then they'll pick out ones that aren't in there because some of the flavors mix.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But she pulled out about 15.
Wow, that's crazy. And Caitlin, you grabbed something else. What do you have on the table here for us?
Okay.
So this here is the Pisco.
Our version of Pisco.
Our version of Pisco. So yeah, it is the Muscat grape. And so when you're smelling it and tasting it, you should get that lovely Muscat grape flavor with a little bit of lychee nut, a little bit of apricot.
Yeah, right on the nose. The lychee.
This second pour, I
absolutely.
really got more of it, yeah. The classic drink for that is a Pisco Sour. So you use raw egg white and the Pisco, of course, and shake it with ice.
Oh.
Well, shake it first, and you get the froth. It's like a meringue, right?
Yeah.
And then you put over and chill it over ice, and it's so good.
And then what are you making, Chris?
I am mixing my version of a drink called a Chilcano. And the original drink has simple syrup, ginger ale, ginger juice. Don't know where I'd get ginger juice. Of course, the Pisco and some Angostura bitters. I shortened it, so I got rid of the simple syrup because I'm not a real sweets person.
Sure.
Basically, just got some cock and bull because it's a ginger beer. It's got the heat that
Yeah.
would be the ginger juice. Mix it with our Pisco, and then splash some Angostura bitters on
Yeah.
top. And it is surprisingly
You
incredibly
squeeze a lime in there, yeah, very refreshing.
There
It is
we go.
really good. And I'm with it's probably the ginger, but I'm picturing this on a Christmas buffet in a punch bowl with little slices of orange floating in there and some whole cranberries floating in there.
Little clove.
Just some
Yeah.
little
Some cinnamon
clove.
sticks, yeah.
Oh, just a delightful little
So it
holiday
has such
treat.
it has such great flavors and very subtle ones. So it's you wouldn't want to do something like a Mai Tai where you've got a tons of juice or whatever, but it mixes beautifully with something really simple like
Yeah.
just pomegranate or just a splash of cranberry or just something really simple.
I kind of love just sipping on it because, like I said before, it's such a complex flavor profile.
Yeah.
All of the herbaceous and floral notes that you get on the back of your palate. Once you've sipped it and it's sat, and now you're just kind of breathing through your nose and letting that air cross
Absolutely.
your palate.
Yeah, it's sort of akin to like an eau de vie or a classic German schnapps where it's just the fruit
Yes.
wine distilled
Yeah.
and served simply like that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
One of the funny things with this is that since we've come out with it, it is amazing how many people have popped out of the woodwork. I was in Peru. I was doing this. And it's like, I guess we need to go to Peru. It's the cool place to be.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the biggest argument is that on the front label, is it a llama or is it an alpaca? And
we made the intent for one or the other.
Yes,
you did?
It is intended to be one or the other, but we've had arguments that it's the other.
I have had...
Well, doesn't it have to do with like the neck is shorter on one?
And the ear size.
Yeah.
And I had a lady come up to me at a tasting who was a llama breeder. Or no, excuse me, alpaca breeder. And so it's either an alpaca or a llama. And she's describing that the picture, well, it could be this and it has different aspects.
Oh.
And kind of settled on the fact that it's probably a Surrey llama, which is a mix of an alpaca llama.
Wow.
From what I understood.
Okay.
I didn't think it would be that
involved.
Yes. I looked at it and I saw a llama. And
so all of our products have icons on them. You could see like, the motorcycle for the vodka and the so this one it's supposed to shout Peru at you, right?
Yeah.
Without saying Peru, because we're not allowed to say Peru on there. We're not allowed to say Pisco, so we need to use this icon to indicate that
to give the feel,
right?
To give the feel,
and you can't put a picture of the Emperor's New Groove on there,
right?
So.
No, that would be a whole different lawsuit with Disney. Yes,
Yeah,
and they're worse than the government.
Right.
Yes,
I would have guessed alpaca because I have to be honest, your label's not trying to kick or spit me.
There you go.
So yeah,
a few more drinks, we'll see.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There you go. The other big question on our labels is our vodka, because we do have the motorcycle on the label, and that's been a fun one. It is not a perfect representation of the motorcycle original, but everybody knows, oh, it's a Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an old BSA.
Yeah.
And no, it's not. And it's been fun if you can guess what it is.
Do you guys know motorcycles enough?
A little bit. My parents are bikers, I suppose, for lack of a better term.
Well,
there was quotes, air quotes. Around
Yeah,
this.
there was air quotes for all of you at home.
The secret is in the cowling on the motor. It looks like a jet engine.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
It is, should I say?
Yeah, yeah.
It is an Ermacchi Camera. It's an Italian motorcycle.
Okay.
So back in the 60s, this was a mean racing machine.
Oh, okay.
Again, this is not a perfect representation of the bike. There's a couple things, but if you do go to look at pictures online, Google, you'll really see, especially that cowling, very distinctive.
Okay.
Interesting. So are you a motorcycle person?
We both ride.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, nice.
And that was the appeal when the label was presented to us at the motorcycle, because we both ride.
It was sort of a, we were presented different concepts for the labels, and it was just sort of, the artwork was just sort of a holding place, and we both thought, well, we ride since why not?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we went with the
absolutely.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then each product has icons, and they're all sort of represent that product in some manner or another, but we didn't really know how else to represent vodka, so we just, we like motorcycles.
Right.
You have a lot of, yeah, exactly. You like your vodka, you're passionate about the vodka. You like your motorcycles, you're passionate about your motorcycles.
Yeah.
What do you guys ride?
I have a Nighthawk.
Okay, nice.
An old Nighthawk.
Wow.
It's a 91, I think.
91 Nighthawk, so it's going to be
750.
750.
750.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't want to get too big of a bite.
Sure.
I ride a Concourse, Kawasaki Concourse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, original Connie, 1000 cc.
Yeah. Nice.
Love it.
Okay.
Those are fantastic riding bikes, I'm told.
Yeah, they're so nice.
Yeah.
Do you ride?
I don't. I had a really bad concussion a number of years back, and it actually changed my flavor entirely. I don't think I could be doing this before I had my concussion, to be perfectly honest with you.
Interesting.
It
Whoa,
completely changed my palate. But it also means that sometimes I just get a little wobbly.
Yeah.
And
Not a good way to be on a bike.
No, it took me, I think 9 months before I could drive after that.
Wow.
It was probably 4 or 5 months before I could walk any appreciable distance.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's an
Yeah.
awful concussion.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was a pretty bad one. Fortunately, I went to the hospital and got the MRI and the specialist visits, and we got all the bills for many thousands of dollars. And
Yes.
then the specialist, held up my MRI and said, "Oh yeah, you've got a concussion right here. Pretty good one, pretty big one." And I said, "Okay, well, what do we do now? Where do we go from here?" And she just said, "Nothing."
Wait it out.
Yep.
Yeah,
So the
there's
lesson
nothing to
is, don't piss off your wife.
Or hide the cast iron.
There, right there.
Now, how is that a
come on.
common joke? He's got a big scar on his head, for anybody who can't see, and he always jokes, yeah, don't piss off your wife's cooking when she's holding the cast iron.
Oh.
The funny
It
thing
has nothing to do with that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. The funny thing about the joke, though, is that people look at you and they're like, he might not be kidding. I had one guy.
Nobody has ever thought that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. No. No, they're like, no, maybe. He's not quite sure. Yeah. It's like, he's not smiling.
It's all about the delivery.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-bum.
That's
Yeah.
right. Well, we can tell you're not serious because you're not wearing a helmet right now, and that's the only way you say it next to her.
I'm within striking range, yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Jojo, did you ever ride motorcycles?
I tried out a little bit when we were kids. I have 2 older sisters, and when we were kids, my dad got us a little Yamaha 80 big wheel, and I tried my hand at that for a little bit. I dumped it once in a field, and I got right back on and started again. But
for you.
It never gave me a feeling of excitement or joy or like, oh, I can't wait to go out and do that again.
But your racing does?
But race cars, that's what does it for me.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
yeah, so I'll ride on the back with my dad every now and then. My parents each have Victories, different models
Okay.
of Victory motorcycle. But he's had Harleys, he's had a newer Indian Chief, and then a couple different Victories. And my mom's had like 3 different Victories, and so
Good for her.
yeah, she rode on the back with my dad for a few years, 3 years. And then suddenly one day she was like, that's it. I'm getting my own bike. I'm tired of being on the back.
That's
Our
right.
first date, he actually rode on the back of my bike.
Ooh.
We went out to go, he was going out to buy a bike. So our first date, he bought his bike.
Oh,
And
cool first date.
Yeah, well,
Very cool
yeah.
first date.
And then so I had just down in California, San Luis Obispo area, and I was new in the area, so he took me for a ride down along the beach, and we went to
Nice.
the end of the boardwalk at sunset, the whole goofy thing. But
so romantic.
but yeah, we did a really nice long bike ride for our first date. It was pretty awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome place to go riding. It's just sunny all the time.
Right. I know my parents are doing the snowbird thing now that they're retired. So they spend the winter in Arizona riding their motorcycles. And then they come home here in the spring and summer and continue to ride their motorcycles.
Awesome.
Follow the weather. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
The closest we got was with our Miata. I've had a couple of Miatas, and then my wife had a Miata, and she loved that car. Loved that car. And then when we bought a house, it was kind of time for the Miata to go. Unfortunately, it wasn't. We probably
What
could
does
have.
buying a house have to do with that?
No garage.
Oh,
It's got a 2-bay shop, but it was full of stuff because we were trying to move in super fast, and it was just kind of a weird. I don't know. We were in kind of this weird space, and we had both had our regular vehicles, and we couldn't let this one sit because it was still the soft top and had a few leaks, and it was gonna sit and get moldy, and so we made the decision to go ahead and sell it, and then instantly regretted it.
You will.
So we'll get another one, but that's about as close to the wind in our hair as
The
we
wind in
get.
your hair,
Okay.
but-
No.
Born to be mild.
right.
There you go. There you go. Actually,
We just got a cabriolet, an old, I think it's an 87.
no, I think it's 84.
Oh, okay.
It's an old car.
It's an old, it's an
Yeah.
old.
And cabriolet,
Yeah.
because I used to have one, and I love the top down. I love the wind in my hair more than riding motorcycles. Right, you can wear a helmet on a motorcycle, but
Right.
but we have the same problem with it. We can't put it in the garage,
Oh.
and it's not running so well right now. We need to do a little bit of work on it, but
okay.
it's the best having the top down.
And this time of year here, the top down, can't beat it.
Chris
Oh,
can't have much
absolutely.
wind through his hair anyway.
Yeah, well,
You got eyebrows.
Wind on your scalp,
I
wind in
know.
your hair,
Well, I can't wait to see how that cabriolet progresses. Those are fantastic little cars.
Yeah.
And they've got quite a following. So, yeah, I can't blame you a bit for finding one, getting it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was super inexpensive.
And, probably the easiest thing to do at this point is just to go ahead and, get a VR6 to swap into it. I might recommend doing the all-motion drivetrain while you're at it, so that way it's all-wheel drive.
What?
And then you can
Wow.
turbocharge the
Oh my gosh.
VR6 and, have a fun little top-down
You guys-
hot rod.
Yeah, turn it into the
What's on your
Batmobile.
faces? You were like, what?
It would just get it on the road right now.
Yes.
It doesn't stop revving. Do you have? Can you do a little click and clack action and
there
then
you
give me
go.
some
won't
fixing
stop.
up advice?
So it revs up, down, up, down.
Just up.
No,
So,
it
stays up.
The RPM stays up. High,
yeah. So
Okay.
and then so I don't even have to put my foot on the gas pedal. If I put it in gear, it just goes.
Yeah. Vacuum leak.
Oh,
That's going to be super
All right.
fun. Yeah.
You should start your own click and clack show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it. Yeah.
There it is.
And
Just the
you
introduction to
could
it.
do it while you sip a cocktail, and
Yeah.
because that's what
Right.
they all do.
Yeah.
I have this weird sense about it. It made me really good at selling high performance auto parts. I worked for Baxter Auto Parts for a while and for Horsepower Freaks before they closed down and some stuff like that. But I do have a pretty good sense about vehicles. I can listen, I can look at them, people can describe it to me, and I can say, I think this is going on or that's going on. I just I'm a very visceral person, which tends to make me a pretty fast driver, but it also makes me pretty good at being able to diagnose stuff like that, strangely. But yeah, it sounds like you're describing a vacuum leak.
Okay, well, good to know.
Something that's getting
Do you
air.
know how to fix that, Chris?
I can find out. If I can't, I know someone who can.
Yeah.
Well, it is a mid 80s Volkswagen. It's not going to be as bad as the Audis.
Yeah,
Right.
You guys
Everything's
remember?
Googleable. How do you say it?
Googleable.
Yeah,
Google-
Googleable.
Googleable.
As opposed to being gullible.
Which also can happen when
Yes,
you're Googling
yes.
something.
Very true.
Hey, I'd love to take a look at that thing sometime.
Absolutely.
I'm throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
All right. What are you doing tonight?
Apparently coming over to diagnose your high rev issue.
We got the brandy.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say earlier. We were talking about people from Peru tasting the pisco and sort of commenting it based on their experience and liking ours. We had the same thing when we first came out with the Turkish coffee liqueur. I remember the first time somebody came by. It'd only been out for like a week or two, and somebody came by at a tasting, and he said, "Oh, I'm from Turkey. I'll tell you, you know."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
thought,
terrifying.
Oh crap! He's
Whoa.
gonna call BS on me here, you know.
Dang it.
And he tasted it, and he kind of paused for a second. He's like, "Yeah, you did it. That's really good."
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Nice.
And I've had a number of people say that since then. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
And again, a lot of people, I lived 15 years in Turkey.
Right.
I visited there. It's, wow. So we get to meet a lot of different people, not
That's
just,
great.
that have been to some places.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
That's
Turkish
really cool.
coffee was fun. We drank a lot of Turkish coffee
Yeah.
coming up with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
I work with a fellow who grew up in the USSR, and he told me that he can definitely tell if a vodka was made in a bathtub or a horse watering stall.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
Or were those the only two options in Russia where he grew up?
That is quite the flavor profile.
Right.
The guy's a real,
Horse watering stall.
he's a real cut up. I love listening to the guy talk
Yeah.
because he has funny stories, but there's always that underlying sadness when he talks about his time in the Ukraine.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, not to go down that road.
Yeah. Thanks for being a bummer.
Yeah. Bring the party down.
Boo. So we've got your gins over here, and I am really curious to taste them and have you talk to us a little bit about what you've got going on, what's in them, what's been done with them.
All right. Well, the native gin and the banker's gin that we're tasting now. We have two gins that we came out at the same time, July of 2012. And it was sort of a calculated risk to come out with two gins because we didn't know how one was going to be received, let alone two. And they could conceivably compete against each other, but they're really so different. And it's fun tasting them side by side because people are really drawn to one or the other. So it really hasn't been a problem. Or often if they're undecided, Chris will say, well, the best is at making a gin and tonic.
Yes.
So he'll, send people home with a bottle of each.
And the funnest thing for me is, and I've had this happen many times, a couple will come up and they'll be trying it and they'll switch them off.
Yeah.
And then they'll both like a different one.
Oh, yeah.
And so two bottles go home.
What? You like that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then it's battles. Like, I'm just saying, maybe you should just get one each.
That sounds like me and my husband. We do that a lot.
Yeah.
When we go wine tasting or beer tasting or any kind of tasting, we're pretty much opposites on the
spectrum.
flavor spectrum there. Yeah.
So what are you guys tasting? What do you get there?
Your native gin, right off the bat, I have to say, it's much sweeter than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
So we use the same organic corn base as the vodka. So we're starting with that. And it has the 17 herbs and botanicals. So it sort of creates these layers of flavors.
Yeah.
Compared to the banker's gin, which sort of pops out, each element pops. When I was designing these and tasting all these other gins, I sort of realized there's like a quadrant 4 basic flavor aspects to gin.
Okay.
And so the Bankers really hits all 4 of those. There's only 6 ingredients in that one. The native gin, they're all overlapping.
Yep. She designed 13 gins.
Whoa.
Wow.
She actually played mad scientist. We had actually made tinctures with a standard vodka, and she had mason jars and started just teaspoons and taking notes, and she ended up with 13 gins. I had the hard job of sampling them all.
Oh, poor you.
So we'd have,
It was,
friends
you know,
and family over
yeah.
and taste these also. Yeah, I had little mason jars. So we'd soak coriander in this one and, all the different herbs and spices in them. And like you said, mix them by the drip or the quarter teaspoon or the tablespoon or however proportions I wanted.
Wow.
And then we got it down
so
to
much fun.
It was.
It was.
We got it down to 5 that we liked, and then distilled those down. Because obviously, once you distill it, it's going to be a little bit different than compounded. And I think we ended up with 2 that we liked, but there were so much similarities, we just ended up combining those 2.
Yeah, that was
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we ended up with 2 that was like, we like each one. What should what should we do? And
So is that how you ended up with the 17?
Yes.
Yeah.
By combining the 2?
Yeah, by
They
combining the
both
2
had
recipes.
a bit anyway. I
Sure.
mean, they both had.
They probably had some similar things and
Right.
then like 1 or 2 different.
Right. And then the Bankers gin, you know what, honestly, we were going for the gin that did not have any bells or whistles. It was just a good, standard, sturdy. I always say, depending on who I'm talking to, I'll say it's either the gin like we all grew up with or the gin that our grandparents all drank, right? It's just
Okay.
and then I didn't realize until after we made these that the native gin is there's this sort of emerging Pacific Northwest style of gins that are coming up.
Oh,
And the
really?
native gin definitely fits into that category, I would say.
Wow.
I don't know if that's official, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, there's more than double the amount of distilleries since we came on board, and everybody's making a gin. And they're all good, right? Well, they're mostly good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We won't name any names.
No, no.
I'll just name good ones.
Right.
But it's all your palate and what you like. And
the people in Pacific Northwest are really very clever,
Oh,
very
yes.
creative, and there's a lot of great herbs and botanicals that are native to the area and abundant around here.
Yeah,
And
oh, yeah.
so there's just definitely a style that I'm seeing emerge, much more flavorful, full.
I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone that Portland, Oregon in general, but Portland, because of what Portland is, it's becoming sort of this culinary capital of the Pacific
Absolutely.
Northwest, and it's because we've got so much going on here in Oregon. And California, of course, has the sunshine, and Washington has the rain and the dank, and those 2 things are going to very much affect the flavors that are coming from the state. But Oregon's in that sweet spot.
I never
And
thought of it that
especially-
way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's
like
very-
that.
Yeah.
Then you add like that next layer of depth, which is the Willamette Valley.
Right.
And because of how our climate is right now, the Willamette Valley is producing some of the best wines on the planet.
It's true.
And it's just one of those things where when you're making good wine from good grapes because the climate is just right, you're producing a lot of other things too.
oh yeah,
And the Cascade Coastal Range is making a lot of interesting things now. I feel like the wines on the Coastal Range have started getting really, really good. And so I'm sure a lot of these botanicals that you're finding, they are getting much more, I don't know if I want to say concentrated in flavor, but you're getting something that seems more flavorful recently. I wouldn't be surprised at all because of how our kind of our summer's been going for the last couple of years.
And the nice thing with the, like you say, the wines are really good, and that is why our Trios brandy is, and the Piscu is so good. We have a really good product that we're starting.
But
So-
again, it's just growing right up the road from us.
Yeah.
Right in
Right.
the valley.
I think
That's
it's
awesome.
maybe 5 miles from here.
Yeah.
So, but it's, when you start with good ingredients, the outcome, you have to really mess up, everything's stacked in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is truly farm to table, and then the table goes into a barrel for 18 months.
Right.
Well, actually, the,
Farm to table, barrel to
brandy's,
glass.
the brandy,
Yeah.
There you go.
the brandy is 2 years.
Really?
Oh, really?
2
Yeah.
years in the barrel.
2 years in the barrel for the brandy.
Do you transfer from barrels, or is it strictly just 2 years in the same barrel?
We
Correct.
do right now. We
What you
just do
said.
2 barrels, 2 years in the same barrel.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
And these are French barrels. They're Pinot Noir. So these also had the Pinot Noir in them.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to ask you
Okay.
what kind of oak they
Yeah,
were.
it's
They're
the French oak.
French oak,
and
Pinot
these
Noir
also
barrels.
came from the same winery, and they were holding
Oh, fantastic.
the old Pinot Noir. Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping it all in the family.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We found out just recently that there is a cooper here in Oregon that is making barrels with an Oregon white oak.
We've heard about that. Yes.
Yeah,
And that oak really
supposedly.
makes a difference in the finished product. It
Absolutely.
can really
Yeah.
change the flavor and change
It's the terroir, as they call
Mm-hmm.
it, the flavor of the land.
Oh, the flavor of the land. I like
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
I just recently came across that word in something that I was reading. And as I'm reading it and I see terroir, and I'm like, I hope that's how you pronounce it. I think it's French-ish. Maybe.
Well, it's French, so it's going to be terroir.
Right.
There you go.
If you're not rimming your mouth with your tongue, it's not French. Hey, I just tasted your Banker's gin, and it is still my favorite of your two gins. I know that, gins, and it's funny that I say that because I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, well, but the native gin is so good too. It's just that slight preference when you're drinking it straight.
Absolutely.
I have a feeling, though, that the native gin would go better with a sour tart citrus. Ooh. Because I feel like the flavors coming out of the native gin would be able to hold up to something that's tart.
When we first made that, that's an interesting, it'll be an interesting experiment to test those two with something particularly tart. But when we first made the native gin, I thought, okay, there's so much going on in here. It's not going to really mix that well. Gin and tonic at best. Like you really don't want to mix with anything.
Right.
Because there's so much going on in there. And it wasn't long after that we started experimenting with it and with different bitters.
Oh.
We have like all those, the peach bitters and all these different flavored bitters. And we started doing what we call the gin smash, which is one of my favorite things now to do. Take a fresh fruit and a fresh herb out of the garden and mush them together. Just really flavorful things mixing with the native gin, and it pulls out different flavors each time. So anyway, the native gin being so complex, I thought it would clash with anything else complex. It really doesn't. It really just creates sort of a fun little party night.
Yeah, there's a homogeny that happens.
Thank you. That's the word I need. Yes. Yeah, and the Banker's gin. I mean, this is again, it's the more of the classic London dry style. They're both London dry style, but the concept of the Banker's gin is to be that classic gin, and then the native gin. The concept was to look at native and local botanicals.
And the name for the Bankers came about that basically Caitlin modeled it after the banker who gave us a loan when we really needed one starting out.
Oh, that was nice.
She modeled it after his gin and
his favorite gin.
Oh.
So that one was a little easier to design, right? I mean, I had a flavor profile in mind, like I knew what I was shooting for, and I actually found the recipe for that gin and deconstructed it and reconstructed it using our own ingredients. So we don't use this; it's a totally different recipe, not even the same ingredients. But I knew those flavor profiles I was shooting for.
Do you use coriander?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, most gins.
Almost
I'd say
every
99.9% of gins use coriander. So it has to have juniper, obviously.
Right.
And then most of them use coriander. And then after that.
I love the coriander. It really stands up on the back of my tongue. After about 5 seconds after I take the sip, I'm just sitting there going,
a little
there's
kind of
some
citrus,
coriander in there.
herby.
I thought you were
kind
going to
of
say
Yeah.
after 5 sips, it really just stands up.
Hey, I asked you to make these pours small. This is why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Banker's gin. I love the native gin. I think that they could both be used in a little different way. But you know what? You might be right. That native gin, throw a little tonic water in there and just call it good.
That with tonic is dangerous. It's just dangerous. I always joke it has a very high evaporation rate. And people look at me and go, what do you mean? It has to be evaporating or someone's drinking your drink because you couldn't be drinking it that fast.
Right.
There's Angel's share, and then there's Chris's share.
There you go. It goes down real easy.
It's the Houdini of G&Ts.
There you go.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
Well, Chris used to always say when we started out, we drink what we can and sell the rest.
Yep.
That sounds like an excellent business plan.
Got it started.
That's hilarious. I love it, you guys. This is super good. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank
on
you.
this.
Hey, thanks.
And you're not an old distillery. Like you're not. My great grandfather started doing it, and then it passed down to me.
I mean, my dad will talk about it. He's from Kentucky, and they did the bathtub gin and the outlaw whiskey and stuff.
Awesome.
But really, none of this is family recipes or anything like that.
Right.
And we are. I mean, we're almost 7 years in the making now, which is young. It's still young, but there have been, like I said, more than double the amount of distilleries. The amount of distillers has more than doubled since we've come on board. So there's a lot of much younger folk on board, which is great. I mean, we love it.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be the only one out there in the field going, hey, drink my stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the more we can work together with all the other distillers, like Spiritopia is right over there, and we'll get together and do events. And Four Spirits is right here in town. We get together with them a lot and just sort of talk about the state of the industry and what's working, what's not working. And
We've had a lot of fun meeting everyone in the industry, especially around here. We're actually close friends with a few different brewers and some winemakers and stuff like that. Know them on a first name basis, go over to their house for birthday parties, that sort of thing. But it's been a lot of fun meeting and hanging out with the distillers and the brewers around here. And there is a community voice that is happening. And I like that and I appreciate that. It's not us versus the world.
Not at all.
You guys are definitely working together to make sure that your local government and state government stay off your back. And that's very important for a small business. And I appreciate that you guys are doing that, because if I ever try to start my own thing down the road, you guys have paved the way. So I love that.
and quite frankly, I mean, Hood River Distillery, the oldest distillery in Oregon after Prohibition. God, I don't know how many decades they've been around. Clear Creek.
Yeah.
Bend Distillery.
They're like 25 years in the making, I think.
They
paved the way for
Yeah,
that.
they really
that's
paved the
true.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no secrets here, right? I mean, how long have we been distilling and brewing and fermenting? Forever.
Yeah, forever.
Right.
Since we could
Since the dawn of time.
gather
you
a
could
cup
put-
of water somewhere, we
Yeah.
could we
Exactly.
fermented with. So all we can do is help each other.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
The
That's
tide
absolutely
rises, all boats float.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
We were given a lot of help. And we started out, and we even went on a tour of one of the distilleries in Portland. And the guy is telling us all this stuff, and we're just like, "Excuse me, should you actually be telling us some of this stuff?"
it's seemingly proprietary
Oh
information.
yeah, it was. It seemed really intimate stuff.
Oh.
And then he's like, "Well, what are the odds you're going to start a distillery?"
And you were like,
Actually, and he's like, "Yeah, but
Everybody says that.
yeah,
yes.
everybody's starting a distillery." And then Caitlin mentioned, "We need one piece of paper signed,
Yeah.
and we're done." And he's like, "Oh," but he's still.
Yeah, he's like,
And
all
then
right,
he
well,
stopped
let me tell you
talking.
more.
No.
No,
Well, no,
he
no.
was great. He's like, all right,
Actually-
well, let me show you more.
Oh,
Yeah, well, then it was
fantastic.
then he switched to start talking shop more.
oh, great.
And
That's
yeah.
good.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
really
a lot
good.
of
yeah.
lot of good information. As Caitlin said, Four Spirits, huge help to us. When
They
we
came
first
on board
started.
That's
about 6
awesome.
months before we did, and they've been great cohorts to have. And Tad, we were talking about Tad Seastat from Ransom earlier. He basically handed us our distributor in New York.
Wow.
He recommended, they were already his distributor for wine, and he recommended them to us when they started carrying spirits. And I was honored. I was flattered and honored. I hold him in very high regard. And
Well, let's be honest. He needed a top shelf liquor to go with his top shelf vermouth. So
well, he makes his own.
Yeah, he makes his own.
Have you tried that Old Tom? He makes an Old Tom style gin. Before we started the distillery, I thought, okay, if I can make a gin half as good as his,
Yeah.
I will call it a success. And I did have somebody once compare my gin to his. I was like, yes,
Oh,
I
that's
won. I got it. I did it.
awesome.
I hit my mark.
Wow.
I have to ask. I know your background, and so it makes sense that you would end up here. But like, what was the push? What made you guys decide? Well, we're here now, so let's make a distillery.
Okay, so we got thirsty. I have to say that now.
It was kind of a convoluted path.
Yeah.
I mean, not that complicated, but just sort of, there wasn't any there's really no straight and easy answer to that, right? I mean, it's,
There was no like aha moment.
Well, there kind of was. We were
Okay.
we were looking for something to do together because our backgrounds are really different, and we were going to do maybe a coffee shop, a small restaurant.
but we honestly, we started out thinking about a distillery. And pretty quickly we're like, "Ugh, forget it, you can't start, that's goofy. You can't start a distillery, right? Because I'm thinking of like Jack Daniels and this
Sure.
great big production.
Sure.
And then we went on, like Chris was saying, all these other sort of ideas that we're looking at.
And nothing really grabbed us. And Caitlin, having bartendered her way through university and living in Corvallis, we know a lot of the bartenders, the bartenders who've become restaurant owners. And they all kind of make their money off the bar.
Oh, yeah.
And so now our little, mom and pop restaurant's going to have a bar.
Okay.
And so it just kept progressing. And we finally kind of looked at each other and said, well, can we do a distillery? Now, if we'd been paying attention, we'd have realized that Hood River Distillery and Bend Distillery, they're in Oregon. And that,
yeah.
duh. But we looked into it and quickly found out yes you can, and that's when we went down to Petaluma, California for a week-long intensive class, all inclusive. Boy, they talked about everything.
We talked about glassware and pumps, and I mean, and the finances and the laws and the
the
It wasn't
labels.
just distilling, yeah.
We were visiting other distilleries down there, and the lawyers came in to talk to us about stuff. And
we kind of came out at the attitude of like, let's just keep moving forward until we can't.
Right.
Like, let's just keep trying.
Wow. Wow, good for you
And
guys.
then if we can't, we can't, and we did. Wow. I mean, there comes a point, right, when you're doing your own thing, like probably, doing the podcast too, like it just sort of creates a snowball. Like you can't stop it after a while, right? It gets its own momentum and it gets rolling.
I just wish we'd gone through some kind of training first.
Right.
The training, everything, almost everything in that class down there was everything but distill. Because the distilling is you're boiling a liquid,
right,
and catching it.
Yeah.
And so it's all about the law, the glassware, the labels, how you're presenting it to people, the recipe development, aging it in wood or anything else. The actual distilling is, quite frankly, you can screw it up, but it's if you're paying attention, it's relatively simple.
Sure, yeah. Well, all that stuff that you guys learned, that's kind of the important part.
It really is.
honestly.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And
we're all making the same widget everybody else is making. Now we need to figure out how to...
Yeah,
That's
make our very distinctive widget.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Caitlin has the hard part. She does most of the paperwork. I got the easy part. I keep the physical business running. Most of the distilling, we all label the bottles because it is one at a time by hand.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
You guys label your bottles one at a time by hand?
Yeah.
And that's actually
Incredible.
half a bottle at a time because it's a swipe.
It's a square
they're
bottle,
so
yeah.
straight. Like the labels are so straight. I
It's a
could
jig.
never do that.
Oh, no, we're not peeling them off and putting them on. We've got a machine. But
Oh, okay, nice.
We'll show you our
What?
labeling machine. But yeah, it's a lot of our first bottles was cork with a wood top, and so we wanted to put our V logo brand on the cork, and quickly found. So we had a little branding iron made, and I found out that the corks that you got with the wood tops are not flat. So I then had to hand sand all the corks flat, then brand them.
Oh my gosh.
And then we put
It was
them
too
into the
much.
bottles. And it didn't last really long.
Oh man, that was a grand plan, and I salute you, sir.
It was
Very ambitious.
And it's funny because if you find some of the old corks, you see that they're kind of wedge shaped because I didn't sand them. I didn't literally sand them by hand. I had a belt sander, but you're holding them there.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was fun. Then you brand them, and
that's really funny.
Wow. Yeah.
See, I'm an engineering designer by trade, and so
Okay.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how could you make something that would easily brand the corks and put them in? And I think we could do it. So if you ever want to revisit that, hit me up. But
well, when we go to do whiskey, we're going to probably do one, just let it age, and maybe at a 10 or so year whiskey, then I'll do small batch and go back to something
There you
like
go.
that.
Yeah.
But the easy way to do it is you order it from the cork company.
there it is. There it
There is
is.
that. Yeah, it's not sustainable anymore doing that kind of, brand every single cork kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
So you guys just kept moving forward. Well, like you said, until you can't move forward anymore, except for instead of not moving forward anymore, you opened a distillery.
Yeah, and it worked. And I was going to say, we had a great support system too. I mean, our friends and family, my dad had in different lifetime owned his own business. My sister owns a bar and restaurant in San Francisco. And so just knowing that people can do this, like people in my family we can actually own our own business, that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, which
And your sister is
it's hard to
definitely the
realize.
entrepreneur, yeah.
Yeah. And that word entrepreneur too, I didn't apply that to myself.
Okay.
Until a couple years into this, I was asked to come speak at an entrepreneurial talk, I guess.
And you were like, who, me?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm not an
Exactly.
entrepreneur. Oh, wait a minute. I guess I kind of am, huh? Look at that.
It sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like the people that self-describe as an entrepreneur are not an entrepreneur. That just means that you don't have a good job and still live in your mom's basement.
I know. I hear these classes like at OSU, they have entrepreneur classes. I kind of think like, I don't even know.
What are you
learning in
teach?
entrepreneur?
Yeah. I don't.
It's
Right,
business.
right.
I guess. I don't know.
It's get out and do it. Try
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really hope that entrepreneurial class is just you sitting down at a desk and they handed out a pamphlet that says "Go and do it."
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be a variation.
I sound like
it's-
Nike.
Yeah, just do it. Well, the funny thing is I used to scoff at that motto, but then you realize, you know what? Just go out and try.
Yeah.
It's hard though, man. It's really hard to roll the dice betting on yourself.
Well,
and that's why you need that support system. I mean,
Yes, that
honestly,
really helps.
My family will not let me be homeless, and that is a
that's
big
huge.
thing.
That's a big
That's
safety
really
net.
huge. Yeah.
Right.
They might not let me sleep in their guest room, but they won't let me be homeless.
There you go.
I might be able to pop a tent in my parents' backyard.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If you still have the tent, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my parents live in my house, so if I were to be
there you go.
homeless, they would
There you go.
They're coming
Yeah,
over.
they don't have much of an option. They're with you now.
Right.
That's super funny. So you've got one more for us to try, right?
Yeah, we're going to try the rum. We do have 7 products, but it gets a little overwhelming. So the rum, we came out in August of 14. We call it traditional rum.
And when she says we, she means her.
We did a lot of tasting.
Okay, well,
That was
yeah,
a we.
we did,
Okay.
yes.
That was
she's
not a
right.
royal
We
we.
did,
That was a
yes,
real
we
we.
did a lot of
There's
tasting.
actually a bar downtown Corvallis, and one of the bartenders was really into rum, and so he took us through a lot of really nice rums, and he only charged us for like the first 2 and then he got excited, and so he just kept giving us tastings.
what's his name?
Unfortunately, he's not around. He's not. He left town, but he was great. But so we did a lot of reading about all these different the old traditional rum houses. And this doesn't represent a particular region, but we did take these old traditional practices from a lot of these old rum distilleries.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this includes like a really slow stepwise fermentation process. It takes usually like at least 3 weeks for the fermentation, and we don't add all the sugar at once. We do it in this slow stepwise fashion. We use what's called a dunder pit, which we're just in the back. I should have shown you. There are these barrels that looks like a barrel of mold.
Fuzzy liquid,
It
yes.
kind of is. And so we take when we do the stripping run, it's the first run where you're stripping the alcohol off. And so it has, when it's done, what's left in the stillage is like all the dead yeast cells and the sugar solids and everything that's just left over, and it's sterile, right? It's just been boiling for so many hours.
Right.
So we'll put it in a barrel, leave it open while it cools, and then cover it up and make it as airtight as we can. And then all kinds of fun things grow in there. Ooh. And it gets all kind of great. So all these great esters are being developed. So it's a bacterial microbial process that's happening. There's a particular bacteria, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, that we're shooting for. And so we've thrown about half of them away because if they get earthy smelling or smell like dirt, it's no good.
Not good.
Right. So we're looking for these estery, sort of fruity flavors, and we'll use that for the next fermentation. So about 10% of the liquid that goes to the next fermentation is from this barrel.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it adds
Wow.
these really great fruity flavors. So anyway, so let's see, slow fermentation, the dunder pit. We do a slightly different distillation method. There's 4 cuts instead of the traditional 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
You make 4 cuts
We
on
make
this?
4 cuts. So it's the heads, hearts, and tails, and then the tails of the tails. Like the rum oils come out.
Oh.
Usually we catch the rum oils. There's been a couple times they just disappear.
Yeah,
I don't know what happens to them,
I
but-
think part of it is a function of our batches are not huge. If I had 1,000 gallons still, then that rum oils would be much more prevalent.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we
But
have.
yeah, we keep the tails of the tails. The very last bits have these very unique
Yeah.
and particular rum flavors. So those go back in.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's what gives you this really unique flavor profile.
Yeah,
That and
between
the
the
dunder,
dunder
yeah.
and that. And then we age them in a combination of bourbon barrels and neutral oak barrels. That's where the color's coming from.
Ooh, yeah.
So you get some of that oak and vanilla plus the rich rum tones.
How long do you age this?
We've committed to at least a year. Most of our bottlings have been about 1.5 years, a little bit more.
Wow.
And actually, our barrels, we have quite a few that are topping 2 years, and I have marked a couple that do not open till 2026.
Nicely
So
done.
so that will
Yes.
be 10 years.
Those are the ones
I'm
for
marking my
Forgetting
calendar.
about, right?
I will be back in
Now we
2026.
now we just have to keep putting some away for the long term.
So that's all the technical part of it. What do you guys think?
Oh, I love it. Like right on the nose, the sugar is very prevalent.
Yeah.
Lots of vanilla, lots of brown sugar, a little bit of molasses. This is not a spiced rum, but there's a little bit of a complex note going on. There's definitely some
absolutely.
spice on the nose.
There's lots of magic that goes on in the barrel that's indefinable chemistry. I mean, nothing can replace that time in a barrel.
Well, I mean, how long ago did we realize that evaporation, even though it was in a barrel, was happening? They were calling
Right.
it the angel's share. Up until, I want to say that was like 160 years ago. Only then did we realize that it was evaporation that was happening through the barrel.
Right.
Right.
No, it's angels with very fine straws.
Right.
That makes much more sense.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, you guys, I love this rum.
Isn't it good?
Yeah, it's good.
Again, something you could sip by itself. You don't
Yeah.
need to bury it. I love it like with just some coconut water and a squeeze of lime. It was really good. Nice, refreshing in the summer.
Caitlin also developed a hot-buttered rum mix.
Oh, yeah. We make our own hot buttered rum mix and it sells like
Yum.
hotcakes in the winter.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you guys kidding me right now?
No.
When we go to do tastings in the winter, we'll have a pump pot of the hot buttered rum mix and a pump pot of hot chocolate for the Turkish coffee liqueur. This stuff goes flying off the shelves.
You guys are killing me. Why do we have to do this in the summer?
I know.
I'm coming back. in September.
Yeah, come back. We've got more to
Absolutely.
taste.
Absolutely.
It's a date for sure.
Okay, the hot-buttered rum is stellar.
It has been kind of a pet project, or I shouldn't say pet project. It is the only thing that we start with the raw ingredient, right? I mean, we get the sugar and molasses. That is my own proprietary blend. I can't give that one, but and do like all the fermentation, all the everything in house.
Awesome.
So it is kind of a held dear to my heart on that one.
Oh, it shows because for being a young rum, this has got such complex flavors. Like it tastes like it's been in a barrel for a decade. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
this stuff that you have in a barrel, I cannot
Oh, wow.
wait
I
to try.
10 years, I know.
If we wait that
Coming back
long.
for that.
If you wait that long, can I sponsor one of those barrels?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what that means? That means money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
no,
ahead,
I
give me the
know.
money. I'll
It feels like a smart investment though,
Right.
because I don't know how much it costs going into the barrel, but I feel like a barrel like that's going to be worth some money.
I did one day calculate, like you can see all through the shop, there's barrels scattered everywhere. In this room, this is all brandy, but the rest of the distillery, that's all rum out there.
Oh,
And I
really?
did one day kind of calculate how much money, and I thought, I don't know where all this money came from because
Whoa.
we've never had that much money, but there's a lot of money sitting out in those barrels.
And
How
not
do
to
you eat an
men-
elephant?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, one bite at a time.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And in the small barrels, Caitlin has her experimental cranberry rum going.
He just gave out our secret.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, this is going to be for.
I
We've been wanting to do it for a few years, and it just has never come to fruition. So this fall, this will be our seasonal, and it might be only through the tasting room. I'm not sure if it's going to go through the liquor stores.
Well,
or not,
we'll
but-
come back for that.
Absolutely.
And then we'll come
Yeah.
back for the hot buttered rum and the hot chocolate with the coffee liqueur.
Okay.
And then we'll come back in 10 years for the rum.
Okay,
There you go.
Okay.
We've got our
It's a
calendar
plan.
filled.
Yeah.
is this rum 80 proof?
It is 85.
85. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a little bit hotter. It was kind of where the best flavor came. I mean, we did test it all the different, various proofs and.
Oh no, I'm 100%.
40
I'm
yeah.
100% with you. I love when they're a little bit stronger. I feel
Yeah.
like you do get a much better flavor profile.
Yeah.
I mean, not always.
Right.
You're getting a lot of flavor off of your vodka, obviously at 80 proof. But sometimes when it comes to these darker liquors, when they're a little bit hotter, you just get a little
Yeah.
more
Yep.
of that flavor. And I could kind of tell. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but when I was sipping it, and I just thought this is a little bit hot, but man, it's got some rich flavor.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling
Yeah.
it was a little more than just your typical 80.
That is going to, again, I warn people, like, before you take a sip, it's really smooth for how hot it is, but it is higher proof than
But
you'll
what's
probably
funny,
expect.
though, is that people gush over how smooth the gins are, and they're 88 proof.
Right.
Oh,
Wow.
see, I didn't even notice
I
that.
would not have
Yeah,
guessed.
that's
Yes.
yeah. And
That's more of a function of, well, at 80 proof, when they're chilled, the oils come out of solution and it gets cloudy. Like, when you put an ice cube
sure.
in ouzo and
Right.
it gets white. So we just had to increase the proof to keep the oils where they belong.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, keep them
Wow.
in solution.
I had no idea. Huh. I love all of this. I love it all. And, of course, you having the chemistry background, back me up on this. People who say that alcohol is not a solution, well, it is.
It's a solution to everything.
It is the solution to
It is
everything.
the solution.
It is a solution. It is the solution.
Yes.
there you go.
You guys, we have had such a fantastic time
Yeah.
being here with you. I cannot thank you enough for sitting down and talking to us. And I have got a lot of material to sift through when I get home.
Oh, man.
This has been a lot of
No,
fun.
it has been very fun. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you agreed to do it. And I'll tell you what, I feel like this is just part one.
Oh,
I hope
absolutely.
so.
Oh, we'd love to. 'cause-
Let's do part 3, 4, or 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, and 5.
Yeah.
If I could count.
No, it's just 3, 4, and 5 skips part 2.
Oh, okay.
Because we just hate talking about what we do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah. It was like pulling teeth to get you to talk about it.
I
I
know.
was nervous, to be honest, but this has been a lot of fun.
No, it's
Yeah,
been real good.
Yeah.
We've had a really good time, and what a beautiful location, and what a beautiful space, beautiful product. I mean, it really is amazing. Listeners, I cannot stress enough, you need to go to the store wherever you
Yes.
are. I do have to apologize to some of our listeners in Wyoming and New Jersey, New York. You're going to be getting
Yep.
it real soon.
Yeah. And for those of you in New Jersey, New York's real close.
This is true.
Yeah.
And our listeners in Australia and Romania, find a family member. They'll be able to send you something. Find a way to get this Vivacity.
Yes.
I got to be honest, I think my pick, but I am a rum person. I love your rum.
Oh, thank you.
The Piskew, that was a big surprise, and I
Yes.
liked that a lot. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
That's been really interesting. I recommend to anyone to go and check that out for sure. One more time, Facebook, we're going to find you under Vivacity Spirits.
Veracity.
Veracity, excuse me. And your Instagram is at
Vivacity_fine_spirits.
awesome. And of course, vivacity.com, which you can order through and they'll ship to, you said 22 states right now?
I think so.
Yes, I believe that's correct. 22 states.
VivacitySpirits.com.
Vivacity Spirits.
Yes, just
Okay.
VivacitySpirits.com.
That's
Yes.
fantastic, you guys. You're going to make 22 states very happy when this comes out. Well, hey, you guys, thank you so much for sitting down with
thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Jojo, you have a fantastic one. And listeners, we will see you next time. Boost Booze and Barbecue.